What's up, everybody? How we doing tonight? It's your boy Trax coming to you live from the building that does it all. We're right now. We're waiting for Lester. He's wrapping up some things, and he'll be on here in a little bit. As you guys know, Lester Wiltfong is the chief editor of Windy City Gridiron. We've had him on quite a few times, along with Jacob Infante. Is a little busy right now, Jacob. He's putting together all those mock drafts and everything and breaking down and dicing and chopping up the draft that we're all excited about, because the Chicago is a household name nationwide right now for all the frenzy that we've created, all of the action that we've created. Without us, there would be no action in the draft, baby. We've got it all. We've got it going on, and rightfully so, because Ryan Poles is the head man in charge in Chicago, and he's got everybody's curiosity. You have no idea what he's doing at all. Everybody is so curious. Everybody is trying to connect the dots, read the leaves, hear a little bit. Hey, what'd you hear? This, that? Did somebody unfollow somebody on social media, Instagram? Oh, hey, but guess what? He followed somebody. All this stuff, man. And you know what? I've never seen it. I mean, social media, for a little while now, it's been a little ridiculous. I'm not even going to lie. But this takes the cake. I mean, seriously, you try to figure it out, and people are trying to digest this and figure it out before it all happens. And you can't make no sense out of it. And you shouldn't have to make any sense out of it. And don't read into it. Until it happens, don't consider it to be real, because it's not. It's just it could, it might, who knows? It might be a distraction. It might be a oopsie, I hit the wrong button. I don't even know. The guy might not even have been following Chicago Bears. I mean, honestly, I looked at one and it said that Justin Fields at one point might not have even been following the Chicago Bears. I know his dog is. I know Uno is, and he's got way more likes and followers than I do, that cute little dog, Uno. So, I mean, hey, Justin, if something happens to you, I hope you stay in Chicago. But if you can't, could you please leave your dog? Because we love your dog, okay? And your dog is very popular here in Chicago. So, anyways, I hope everybody's having a good day. It's been pretty unseasonable. It's like 50 degrees today. Tomorrow's supposed to be like 60. My family went to California, and I'm not sure what they're expecting out there. They got a family wedding and whatnot, so I hope they have a good time. I know they landed safely, and so it's just me holding down the fort. So me and the cat. Yeah, me and the cat. And my son was like, hey, I want you to take pictures of the cat every day. I'm like, what about your dad? So he wants me to take pictures of his cat every day. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But anyway, so let's get back to business. Chicago. I did hear a rumor from an inside source that Derrick Henry is going to be talking to the Cards this week. And I guess he doesn't want to be the lead runner. So he wants, to share the load and whatnot. And that kind of like that has his curiosity, that interest of his to go on and go over there. I will say this, though. I have not seen a whole lot of running backs have much favor over there in the Cardinals. There's not been a whole lot, with the exception of the Connor from Pittsburgh, which I'm kind of curious as to why, unless they're going to run really super heavy, I mean, like all the time, and just give Kyler a break over there. Because, I mean, you're already running a lot with Connor, you know what I mean? And then you throw Derrick Henry in there. And Kyler too, I don't know what they're looking at. I would like to see him over in Chicago. That'd be awesome to see Derrick Henry over in Chicago. I don't know if any of you guys are in the chat know how much Derrick Henry would potentially ask for. I know he's starting to look at the other side of 30, right? So he can't be like super expensive, but definitely he should be cheaper than Saquon, I would think, because Saquon is like 26 or something, but it's worth looking at. It definitely would make Justin running. It would take the pressure off Justin, so he wouldn't have to run so darn much. You know what I mean? So, but then when he cuts loose, hey man, look out. So, that would be an interesting thing to look at. Having several different running backs that we already have. Throw Derrick Henry in there. And man, you know what? Which way are we going? What are we doing? Should we do an H-back formation, I formation, pro formation, the wing T? The wishbone? I mean, we could run all kinds of stuff with that guy back there. So I love me some Derrick Henry, though, man. He's a beast. He is a big, big man. So so we'll see what happens with him in Arizona. I haven't heard many rumors about what's going on as far as running backs with Chicago. So that leads me to believe, and we'll ask Lester here in a little bit in the next 10 minutes, what his thoughts are as far as, who he thinks we potentially would go after in the draft. I know the segment that we're going to be getting into and looking at is just basically covering the defense. We will get a little bit into the offense, but the last couple write-ups that he did was specifically about the defensive backs, the safeties, the corners, all that. And so we'll get into it just like we did last year. It was great. We got deep into it and looked at all the positions. And really, it was really cool to get as deep as they did, because traditionally I wouldn't do that as much. I just watched football, and that's basically how I digest it as I watch it. I don't do a whole lot of reading, but I have been now, since I'm a content creator. I do read a ton more. I listen to a lot on the radio. I watch my podcasts, Windy City Breeze, all those guys, Nomad, several, Pat McAfee. There's so many out there. Greg Sprague's in the stands, all those guys. A lot of good local content and stuff. So good times. But so I'm kind of curious, interested to see what they're going to do at the running back position, though, because I think there's been so much focus, right now with signing JJ and what's going to happen at the quarterback and what's going to happen with the offensive line. And then are we going to go throw some more money to the defense, even though we've already thrown over $100 million this year on the defense. And we've seen an uptick in how well, when you spend good money for good talent, that what it will do to your team and how much better it will be on that side of the ball. I'm waiting for them to match it on this side of the ball, so that way we don't go back to our old ways where we had it with Lovey, where all the money was on the defense. And then, and it constantly, it's like, well, let's throw it this way, let's throw it that way. So, but so I don't know what it's going to look like if we're going to go for a guy in the draft. I know I've heard some people say there's a few names out there in the draft for running back that they're interested in. And what's up? What's up, B? Hey, how's it going out there? How you doing? It just says Facebook user. So, hey, everybody, don't forget to click like and subscribe on that on our YouTube channel. We appreciate you. Thank you for following us and support us. We love you guys. Couldn't do it without you. And like I said, don't forget to hit that like button. So, and be a friend and tell a friend all about us. So, so I do want to address the center position with Lester. Very interested in that and how the hell we haven't got that right yet. I'm like, geez, oh, Pete, how could you not get the center position right? You guys have heard me say this a million times already, right? But you got Ian Cunningham, assistant GM, first assistant GM in the history of ever for Chicago Bears, former NFL offensive lineman. And now you've got a GM in Ryan Poles, offensive lineman. And where do we mess up at on the line? The most important position to get the ball off to Justin Fields, to hike the damn ball, center. We couldn't get it right. We're throwing some guy in there that we saw last year that hikes the ball over the guys' heads. I saw a play this year where Justin, he put his cape on, he flew all the way up to the moon, came down, and then he got like 10 yards out of it. If that was anybody else, even Mike Lennon, the neck, it would have went over his head, and they probably would have went back and scored some points on it. So it would have been bad. So, but because we had the superstar Fields in the backfield doing that, he saved us. So maybe that's what they were counting on. Hey, the guy can't hike the ball. Let's just have Fields, pick it up off the ground. He played baseball. It's okay if we just, hike the ball on the grass and give him a couple grounders, or throw it up over his head. He played baseball. It's cool. Just put the ball wherever the hell you want it. It doesn't matter, So, but there, I digress. So, I do think the left tackle is coming in to his own, and I think he's going to end up being pretty darn good. I'd say above average, better than Webb for sure. Once Webb was gone, we ended up missing him because, quite honestly, after that, we really haven't had anybody protecting that left side. So you see how important it is to get that right, because it's really hard to get a good left tackle in the NFL. I do think we have the right tackle covered, so I don't think we'll need to spend much time with Lester there. Unless he decides that we're going to switch the right tackle over to the left tackle, then that's possible. But as far for former offensive linemen, let me tell you something. When they want you, and they've always got these cute ideas. Oh, let's just switch him over from left to right. He does such a good at the most important position on the offensive line, outside of being the center, is the left tackle or the guy that protects the blind side. So if you're a left-handed quarterback, the blind side would be your right side. If you're a right-handed quarterback, then there's this guy on the internet. He throws with both hands right now. Pretty crazy. I think I sent that link out last week. And I don't know what's the blind side. I guess it's just whatever side he decides to throw on. The other side is that. But freaking, let me tell you what, man. Unbelievable. I really think that we could do some damage if we knew who the heck Justin Fields' offensive line is, or whoever our quarterback's going to be, because he did not have, for this year, I think there might have been one or two times where he had the same stinking offensive line in a row. It was always a hodgepodge mix-up every week. And that's the most important. I'm going to tell you right now, the most important team within a team is the offensive line. That continuity and knowing each other in and out, the nuances, this and that, whatever, very important, especially up against a pass rush and all those sort of things, and run stopping, all that. Very critical that you all have to be there every day, dressed up, week in, week out, because it's very important to know who's got your six. If I'm the left tackle and I have a weak right side, on in the five gap, and I'm looking at that, and my guy at my left guard, he understands that I'm a little weak there. He's going to help me block, or I'm getting beat, on the edge. So I got to block all the way out here and then come back, because you always block from the outside to inside. So you got a guy right there that understands that, your second step is not as quick as your first. So he tries to get his guy off him and then gives you help. You miss that guy that day, practice with him all the time. He doesn't know your ins and outs. You don't know his ins and outs, whatever, I was good at jumping on the fumbles. I would jump right on the fumble and grab the ball, and I'd fly right over. I see it come off the ground. I got good peripheral. I see it just, pop on the ground, and I jump right over like it was, like a pancake or something. I'd jump right on and go to town. So I was really good at that. But you miss those type of guys. You miss those guys being there. You miss those guys blocking the ins and outs, whatever. It changes everything. Every time somebody new comes in on that line, it changes everything. So, and another thing too that changes is if you go from a mobile quarterback, a dual threat quarterback, to a pocket quarterback, the blocking is way different. I have to hold my blocks for who knows how long. In order until he gets that ball off and you hear the whistle blow, that's when you've done your job. So, you have to hold on it to a lot longer if you have a dual threat quarterback as opposed to a pocket, and it changes everything. You're going to have to do some more lateral blocking. I mean, it's a lot. You got to get your track shoes on. So, like I said, Lester should be here any minute, and then we're just going to get into his article that he wrote. Has been writing. He's been writing on it for quite a while now. He gets on it every day, every week, and dials it in and finishes his yearly report. So it should be really tasty. I enjoy it quite a bit. So hope you guys are doing good out there on Tuesday. Should be a wing Tuesday for most of us. I know over there at Bridges Scoreboard, who are our sponsors, they got some real tasty wings on Tuesdays, boneless or bone-in. It's 75-cent chicken wings, and they have so many different flavors, man. I've tried them all, and they're very tasty. I am a dipper. I like the blue cheese. Do not stop following me because I'm a blue cheese guy. I know it's either you're a ranch or you're a blue cheese or you're no dipping sauce at all, but I like my blue cheese, especially if it's done like home style, not like the stuff that tastes like processed or whatever, but like the fresh blue cheese with like the chunks, man. That's the stuff I like there. So, and there's Lester. Let's go ahead and bring him on. Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
What's up, brother? How you been?
Whoa, I love the fresh paint job you got behind you, man.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we talked.
Yeah, it's been a minute, dude. I love it. I like the racing stripe behind you. I got a guy that does laser. He does laser on the wood, the laser printing and whatever. Yeah. He's getting ready to do me a bull's head and a bear's head because I was going to try to do it on my own. I'm a carpenter, and I'm going to figure that out. But he's like, no, man, this freaking computer had it done in Jiffy, 2 minutes flat, whatever. And I'm like, do you paint too? He's like, no, I don't paint. But and then he's going to do my Chicago sports podcast sign, so we'll see what it looks like.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you like the work, I'll try to whip something up so you can hang something behind you on that beautiful canvas you got back there, bro.
Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff. I just don't got time to do it all, and my wife's supposed to help me. We just haven't had a chance to get at it. But yeah, I got a bunch of stuff I'm gonna hang when the time is right. I was hoping to have it done for this last season. It didn't happen. Hopefully get it done this off season, so it's fresh and ready to go when we're rolling up the podcasts for 2024.
Bro, I like the beard. You're starting to get into like the wizard phase right there almost, man.
I just haven't had a trim lately. That's all it is. I'm just been lazy. It's the off season, man. I'm winding down a little here.
Hey, maybe I could thank you for bringing in the Lord of the Rings. They're bringing in a new I just saw that today. I didn't really get a good look at it, but I was like, oh yes. So I'm looking forward to that. So
that's
maybe
the new Amazon series, right? Is that what that is?
Oh, is it an Amazon series?
I think so. Wasn't the last Lord of the Rings wasn't an Amazon thing or something?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I never saw it. It's on my to-do list. I'm busy, man. I've got time.
Yeah,
but I'll get to it eventually.
2 careers, family, all kinds of stuff, man. Busy. Painting walls. Freaking, what is that? The Lowe's certified Bears colors or something?
Yeah, it's the real color. We went and got it at Menards, I think we picked it up. I'm not sure. So
okay. So Menards got it.
Official. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters, baby. That is all that matters. So speaking of what matters, we're going to get into your breakdown that you do every year. And every year we bring you on. Well, of the 2 years that we've been on, we've brought you on, and we've brought what do you call it, Jacob. He's busy doing his stuff. All you guys are busy, man. This is your season right now, baby.
Right.
Yeah. So I was looking at those defensive backs, and I started chomping. I was like, hey, let's do a podcast tonight. And you're like, settle down, big boy. So, but then you had to remind me, like, yeah, you do this every year. And I started looking. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Because I'll tell you what, I really don't dive like into these guys like you guys. Like the way that it's a little different now that I'm a content creator, but the way that I used to digest, football is by watching it. That's how I get it all. But now that I'm, content creator, I'm looking a little deeper, and I tell you what, man, you guys write some of the best stories and stuff, and it's really good. So it's a pleasure to have you on again.
Appreciate
and
it.
like I said, yeah, thanks, man. And so with the defensive backs, it's a little interesting because I know you're high on JJ, just pay the man right, and rightfully so and whatever. But what does that look like once we pay JJ? How much money do they have, do you think, potentially set aside for the other defensive backs to fill out the roster, especially since we lost Eddie, or does that add to it?
Well, I mean, losing him, I think, has saved his cap hit was going to be about 17 million. Obviously, there's some dead money when he was cut. I think the Bears, I haven't checked lately, but I believe they're right around 55 as far as effective cap space goes. I know there's a bigger number floating around out there, but you have to understand a portion of that money is set aside for the draft. So it's like that comes off the top. So I think if you go to overthecap.com, they have something called effective cap space, and I think they're right around 55 million. And if they pay Jalen Johnson, I mean, today is actually the window open for the franchise tag. So I don't think we've heard any teams putting a tag on anyone yet. But today was the day where they could start tagging guys, and if they can't work out a long-term deal with Jalen Johnson, you got to assume that the tag's in play because he's not even 25 years old. He'll be 25 this spring. He's still young. He just finished his best season ever. He's been good previous to this season. It just hasn't had the turnovers. And that was the big knock on him. He's like, okay, well, here's some turnovers. Team started to throw it at him a little more this year, so he had a chance to make some plays. So if you pay him, you're starting at 18 million a year. That's just kind of where the franchise tag is, and that's kind of where they'll go from there, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and you know what? I do like it. So he's actually not even the most expensive either. I think like even with the franchise tag, like 18 and 3/4 or something like that, if they tag him, and it's still not, terrible to be the top of the echelon of your food chain, whatever, you know what I mean? And you got that lockdown guy that's going to go after like the top receiver of each team, which is crucial because as you're seeing, a lot of teams out there are stacking their chips, Packers, they're back reloaded. The Vikings, no matter which way they go, whether they just keep whether they stay with Justin Jefferson or they keep the kid from USC, Addison. Either way you look at it, you're going to have one, top guy to lock it down and be that big aggressive body style that he possesses and whatnot. So of course throughout the league too, and then the Lions, man, they're so loaded with receivers. Yeah. It's not even funny. And, you almost would want to know what it would look like to potentially maybe get a little help from him on those tight ends, because those tight ends are almost like receivers too, man. They're freaking ridiculous nowadays, a tight end with that kind of speed, almost like a receiver, man. So
I mean, it's a passing league, man. You got to have enough corners, and the Bears are they put a lot of assets, into that spot. And yes, yeah, they had Jalen Johnson, but they drafted some guys, and I think they're pretty content how that room works out. The key is obviously is re-signing Jalen Johnson, and I really don't think he's going to get away. He may have to play on the tag if they can't come to a long-term deal, but I can't see Ryan Poles, especially with a defensive head coach. You're not going to let his best corner get away.
No, yeah, you're right. And you know what? There's obviously been really good continuity between those two. They're very comfortable, very close. You could see, even if Poles was a like-minded offensive first type guy, being the offensive lineman that he is, that he went ahead and let his head coach have, obviously there's got to be a say in there with as much focus on over $100 million we've put on that side of the ball. And you could see what the difference, I was just talking about that before you got here, is the difference once they spent the good money on good talent, the change that it did for our team. I mean, it's crazy. And you know what? Sweat, force multiplier. One guy changed everything. It's freaking unbelievable. It really is, Lester. The only time that I can, and I know there's many more, but the one that comes to my mind was with the Indianapolis Colts when Bob Sanders came in, when they had that Super Bowl run, and they were like 32nd in run defense. And then Bob Sanders comes in, that little guy that was like, kind of like our Mike Brown, but he was always often injured and stuff, little spark plug. He comes in and they drop from 32 to 16. It was exactly what they needed for that last playoff Super Bowl push. You know what I mean? And that's just kind of like, I feel like Sweat was for us, man. It just like, we went from like bottom of defense to like, whoa, the Bears are, doing things, So, but what do you think we would need? Who's out there as far as like somebody just said, a Facebook user said JJ isn't going anywhere. Oh, that's D. What's up, D? So what would that look like in the safety position as far as free safety goes? Then Eddie's who would you like to see fill that void, or who's available out there?
Yeah, I mean, we got to see what the Bears want to do. I know the fans are talking about Terrell Smith. He played corner last year for the Bears as a rookie. He kind of came in as a reserve for both Tyreek Stevenson and for Jalen Johnson when they had dinged up a little bit. We saw him getting some reps with the ones in training camp, and before that, he was getting some reps at safety. So maybe they'll do something with him. I kind of like to see him keep him at corner. But yeah, I mean, if you're gonna spend some money in free agency, I mean, it all depends how much. And I can't see him breaking the bank. Obviously, Anton Winfield Jr. from the Buccaneers, he is the top safety probably on the market. He's gonna probably be a little bit out of the Bears' price range. Greg Gabriel actually wrote a recent article for us. He broke down all the top safety guys, free agent options. A couple guys he mentioned that I like is the Colts' Julian Blackmon. Baltimore Ravens, Geno Smith, and then a couple other guys that I kind of like looking at. I like the Rams, Jordan Fuller. I just think these three guys, they're going to be that tier below Winfield, but you need someone that's starter worthy, because look at the roster. There is not a starting safety in this roster, unless you're a fan of Elijah Hicks, and I haven't seen much from Elijah Hicks during his time in Chicago. Quindell Johnson, they picked him up last year off waivers. He didn't really make an impact at all in Chicago. So you're losing Eddie Jackson, who was still playing pretty good football. I know a lot of fans were down on him. He's never been a physical player. He had some more interceptions this year. He's always been better in coverage. That's kind of who he is. He's a quarterback of the defense back there, getting everyone lined up. He understands what he has to do. Team leader. That's a void now. So Brisker could probably fill some of that, but you need another starter-worthy guy back there, and it's not on the roster right now.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I would like a hard-hitting guy. I think that would be really crucial for us, and also a guy with some hands or whatnot. But and I don't really know how much of a hands guy you would need to be. I mean, it's like average, but I really think with the pressure that we're going to get, there's going to be some screwballs thrown out there that are just going to be some lame ducks that, you and I could probably even return for a -1 yard or something, but, or just get down on it, but so I'm excited to see what's out there. Do you think that we like metabolize this out of the draft, or do you think it's something that they're going to look at internal with Terrell, or do you think that it's potentially out of the free agency? What do you think the real answer is there for safety?
I got a feeling. I mean, we've seen Ryan Poles now for 2 offseasons. He's kind of slow played a few positions.
Yeah,
I think he may slow play the safety market. Let the market come to him. I mentioned those 3 guys. They're kind of the next tier down.
yeah.
If they're not scooped up immediately with big money, I think Poles may kind of wait and see which one kind of lasts for him. But he has to also go in the draft. I was talking to Jacob on my show last week, and he said it's not a really strong safety class.
Okay.
There's some lower guys that probably can come in and compete. We've seen the Bears do this. We've seen them get Elijah Hicks a couple years ago. Like I said, he's fine. I'm not really wanting him starting. They drafted Kendall Williamson last year, who ended up being cut, and I forget where he got picked up. He's on someone's practice squad now somewhere else, but they're taking swings. You got to keep swinging in the secondary because you never know. I mean, I just talked about a couple guys, Blackmon for the Colts and Geno Smith for the Ravens. Stone was a really low draft pick. Same with Fuller with the Rams. He wasn't a high draft pick. These are
Yeah.
guys that kind of built themselves up. So you never know. You keep swinging, and maybe you'll find a guy that can hit it. But you can't count on that this year. You got to find a starter in free agency, and then see what happens.
And where do you see, like, traditionally safeties? Don't they go like towards the later rounds? They're not really picked up like early. I know with Eddie, like I was surprised, I was like, whoa, that's a little early. But when we got him, what was it, 7 years ago? I was a little shocked. It was a second rounder, right? But
I think he was a fourth rounder. I know Jaquan Brisker was a second rounder. I mean, that's the sweet spot for defensive backs and corners, usually second round.
Yeah.
That's usually where some of those guys fall. Unless you're elite traits as far as cornerback goes, you can usually find a pretty good corner in the second, which the Bears have done. They got Tyreek Stevenson in the second round.
Yeah.
2 years ago, they got Kyler Gordon in the second round.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the sweet spot. But as far as safety goes, again, it's kind of strange. And another thing is a lot of these guys that played corner in college are converting to safety in the NFL. So you kind of see where some of those ball skills put them, which is why some believe Terrell Smith has a chance to kind of make that transition because, coming out of college, some of the people that talked to him said he didn't have the most fluid of hips as far as movement.
Okay.
That's what my guy Jake was telling me this a little bit. Like I said, I'm not scouting like these guys. This is kind of why.
Yeah.
But as far as Smith goes, like I said, man, he is a good football player, and I think they're going to find a way to get him on the field somehow, some way, and that may be a switch to safety.
What's Terrell's measurables? Do you have those in front of you right now?
6 foot, 200-ish, something like that, 6'1".
Oh, wow.
He has decent size. I mean, he has good length. Like I said, he has good length for the position at corner, which is why the Bears picked him. But he just, like I said, he's a good football player. The Bears, they wanted to get him work last summer, so they had him working at safety a little bit. As the offseason progressed, he earned number one reps at corner. He was the top corner over Tyreek Stevenson for a little while during training camp. So he got dinged up. Stevenson got his gig back. Stevenson went on to have a really good rookie season, but the Bears still rotated Terrell Smith in during the season because they wanted to get him on the field. So if they're showing that kind of effort to get this rookie on the field, rotating in with the other prize rookie, the second rounder, that tells you that they probably want to see what he can do somewhere else.
Yeah. You know what? I agree with that. Now, I will say this, though. Let's play devil's advocates for a second now. What happens if the bottom falls out, something weird goes sideways, and for whatever reason, we don't get JJ? What do you think would be the backup plan for that? What do you see out there that we could quickly absorb and put together, like to keep what we had, if that's even possible?
Yeah, I mean, if it gets sour where something happens, you're probably looking at a trade, maybe a sign and trade. You're going to franchise tag him, maybe make a deal.
Okay.
If you just outright let him walk, I mean, if that's what it comes down to, or it's so contentious where the Bears and Johnson says, hey, we can't make it work, we got to move on. Like I said, I don't think it gets to that point, but if that happens, then I think you roll with Stevenson and Smith as your two starting corners, and then you probably look for a veteran, just kind of bring in to kind of compete. But like I said, they like Terrell Smith. They're going to figure out a way to get him on the field somehow, some way.
Okay.
I just personally think that if you got a good corner, you can't have too many good corners, So no. if Terrell Smith is your first corner off the bench, he's in a good time. I mean, Jalen Johnson has a shoulder issue. He's missed a few games the last few years. Tyreek Stevenson missed some time last year. The odds of your guys playing all 17 games are low. So let's have a number two that can step in you trust.
Yeah, and that would be crucial at that point, because you got to have somebody that you could trust in there. But at the same point in time, you're not really ready for this. You're going to have to seriously do a cram exam, right, Lester? I think everybody feels like you feel like that JJ is going to get done. You know what I mean? Like you said, I didn't even realize how young he is. It's 24, 25 years old. He's still got 5 more good years left in him, and that would be, and hopefully they can do it where it's performance or incentive lace. So, and then also some sort of bonus if he stays healthy, plays so many games, so many snaps, stuff like that. I'd like to see something like that get hammered out. You know what I mean? That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you bring him back on a 4-year deal, then he still has a chance to get one more payday before he goes out. And that's what these guys are all about. It's all about getting drafted, starting the rookie clock, getting your first payday, and then if you can, get to that second payday. And that's now you're talking big time money for these guys. And like I said, he is fairly young, so a 4-year deal that still puts him in prime position if he stays healthy. To get another contract down the road.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I'm glad you brought that up. That's crucial because I just did the math really quick. 24, 28, before 30. I'm still going to get a little bit more, squeeze out of that, out of you before you hit the 30, button. And that could be, he could still get a pretty decent contract, especially if he stays strong. I mean, there's even some defensive backs that go from corner over to safety. You're talking about using one of our corners to safety right now, but I've seen some like Charles Woodson that, in the end, they'll go ahead and hop over to safety. So that could be a look for him too, especially with his size and physicality. That was something that I was kind of hoping that we could have got with Tillman. I mean, I could just see it. You got 2 lockdown corners. He's just kind of prowling out there to safety, and all he's got to do is worry about doing that peanut punch, man. I saw like 400 fumbles a season, so. So what are we looking at as far as the rest of the defensive back goes? You think we're pretty close to wrapping that up? There's not a whole lot that we need to hammer out in order to round out our defensive backs. So you think we go grab one safety, maybe another cornerback, and we're done, or what do you think?
Yeah, the only thing I see as a true need is finding another starter for Eddie Jackson. You got to have a guy there that you can trust. I think at corner that they're pretty much set there. I mean, they're going to do the usual UDFA route, maybe draft a guy on day 3 at corner and safety. But you got to figure out a way to someone's going to start next to Jaquan Brisker, because that's a big drop off from Eddie Jackson to Elijah Hicks. I just think it's you can't go into the season with him as your starter.
Yeah, and you know what? I haven't even seen him. I mean, I know he was drafted out of California, and that's the last that I heard out of him. I haven't even actually seen him on the field. Like, you see a whole lot more than I do. I haven't seen him. So
he had he had a handful of starts as a rookie, 2 or 3. I know last year he had about 3 or 4 starts as well. He's the first safety off the bench when Brisker got dinged up and when Jackson got dinged up. So he was the first guy in. But I mean, he's fine. Like I said, he's just. I mean, it's been 2 years now. He was a 7th round draft pick as it was. Maybe he takes a step in the offseason, but as a franchise, you can't bank on him maybe taking a step. So if he does it, great. If not, you got to have a plan in place that can be a starter there that you can actually trust.
Yeah, true. I agree with that. And then the whole thing is about continuity. I think that has a large to do. Why do you think that's so important with this regime? What's up with that? Is that just one of those special words that they like to use all the time? But we don't even want to go over the last special word that they had over
the buzzwords. Yeah. I mean, it's the scheme. I mean, it's a zone-based scheme. I mean, it's not the Tampa 2 that Lovey's ran, but you heard, those guys, Briggs and Peanut, you mentioned, Urlacher. They all talked about how you have to know everyone's job on that defense. Yeah. And it's similar here with Coach Flus. It's you have to understand what you're doing. You have to understand your run fits. You have to understand your zones, where you're dropping, what your guy next to is going to do, so playing with each other, being in the scheme, for a while, that brings that continuity about it. And that's what these guys need. And right now, like I said, they're returning pretty much everyone but Eddie Jackson. So that's a good group coming back. And I think this defense will take another step as a unit in 2024.
Yeah, I do too, and then also I think you saw the uptick, right? As soon as we had Sweat come on, wasn't that amazing? How it just seemed like our defensive backs played better. We've got a lot more, better. And can you talk a little bit about that, from your standpoint, what it's like to have that pressure and make defensive backs it takes the pressure off of them to do their job. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like the chicken or the egg. I mean, which is more important? Is it the coverage in the secondary, or is it the pass rush from your front four, front seven? And I think they both go hand in hand. I mean, if you have a guy like Montez Sweat, you said you called him a force multiplier. He comes in, everyone has to know where he is at all times. You know, he's going to get the double team. He'll help free up the other edge on the other side. The D tackle next to him will have one-on-ones. You know, if you get to the quarterback just a half a second earlier, now the ball's coming out a half second earlier, you know, your DBs understand that they can jump those routes. So it's a guy like Montez Sweat just helps everyone. And I did not think he was this good. You know, I mean, when the Bears traded for him, I'm like, okay, it's a nice trade. They got to get him locked up. They got him locked up. I'm like, fine, good football player, but he was really good last year for the Bears, and then he's primed to have another big year in 2024.
And, you know, to your point earlier, he's still young. He's on the right side of 30, which, you know, I'm not. Yeah, we have a question kind of outside of the box. I really don't mind going there, but we will get back to the defense because that's what we're focused on. Somebody said, here we go. Lester, as always, appreciate your insight. Can you both dive down the wide receiver rabbit hole for 24? What do you anticipate? What do you think is going to happen as far as the receiver?
Yeah, I think they got to get a receiver in the draft. I mean, it seems like that's where everything's trending. They're going to get a receiver early. A lot of talk about Roma Duze, a lot of talk about Blake Neighbors. You know, those two guys, either or, is a very popular mock draft pick for the Bears at 9. But you got to get a vet too, because I mean, who's returning on this team right now? It's DJ Moore. That's pretty much it. Tyler Scott, do you trust him to make a big step in 2024? I think he'll be fine, but I think if he's competing for your number 4 job, that's probably ideal. Mooney's a free agent. He's probably gone. You know, Velus Jones, he's still a gadget guy. You know, the only guy on this roster right now is really DJ Moore. So draft a rookie early and go get a wide receiver 2 as a free agent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did you bring up Scott? I didn't hear if you brought up Scott.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's fine. I mean, it's again, you hope he takes a step.
Yeah.
But you can't rely on hope in the offseason. I mean, I like the draft pick. I thought he was fine, but we saw him with some drops problems this last year. You know, some of the route running wasn't as crisp as you want to see out of him. He's still young, great speed, good athlete. Let's see him take the next step. But I think ideally, if he's competing for your wide receiver 4 job, I think that's where you want out of him. Go get an early draft pick, pair him up with DJ Moore, and then go get yourself a veteran like, you know, Curtis Samuel with Washington. There's some talk about Tyler Boyd. I know Bears Twitter's all over Gabe Davis with Buffalo. That'd be a good option there.
Ooh, Davis,
again, you got to wait and see how the market comes to you. I think Poles, I think he wants a receiver, but he's not going to break the bank. So he may let things kind of play out and then let him come to him again.
Yeah, you know what? I like that. You know, work the market. Don't work yourself against the market to where you overbid for no reason, and don't throw, you know, great money at good talent. You know, that's what they say. The one thing that you don't want to do. Now, you guys went in every year. You guys go, and I'm sure you guys will be going again this year to training camp.
Yeah,
a lot of these guys, I'm sure they're showing out in training camp. They're showing you some dazzling plays, jumping up to the moon, catching rocket passes, all this wonderful stuff in the Wonder Olympics, the Underwear Olympics, right? But then some of these guys, you have like early expectations, and I'll be honest, it's been a little bit, so I can't remember exactly some of your takes. Is there anyone that you could remember that you felt really good coming out of the camp, you know, looking at, and they proved you to be like, yeah, you were spot on with that assessment, whereas some of the others, you're like, oh gosh, you know, what happened there? You know, like I personally, before you answer, I would like to jump in and say, I'm really disappointed in Mooney. I don't think that he's done. I think he could still have some good years ahead of him. I wouldn't mind keeping him around, especially as like a 4th or 5th best receiver on the team. I don't think he'll demand a whole lot of money, but I was definitely disappointed this year. And I don't know if that new receiver coming in is going to help out in a full year with more and a different, offensive coordinator or whatever. But yeah, so is there anybody that you looked at the camp and you were like spot on with?
Well, this last camp it was DJ Moore. I mean, he just looked. I know when the trade was made, a lot of fans were like, "Oh, is he really the guy? Is he really a wide receiver one?" And like we're like, "Yeah, he's had some great numbers in Carolina, great production." And you saw him at camp; he was fantastic. And I got to also say, man, Chase Claypool looked outstanding in training camp. I mean, he had moments in some of the practices where you just looked at him, and he looked like the alpha of the receiving core. And it just didn't work out in Chicago, obviously. And then Scott, I thought looked pretty good. Darnell Mooney was kind of injured in camp, and I'm with you. I think Mooney's got a future in this league. I don't think it's in Chicago. I think they're going to move on, and they're kind of bringing us a couple guys that kind of just get a fresh start. I can see Mooney ended up going to Kansas City, reuniting with Matt Nagy, going over there, and I think he'll be a great fit for them. He kind of slot into their number 3 role. And because when he was getting targets, he produced. He still has that great speed. He has good hands. It just did not. He did not build off what he did in Chicago. And part of it's the offense. Part of it just the miscommunication. I know he was dinged up last year. He had a slow start to this year because he was still kind of rehabbing, and he just never was able to catch on like we all thought he was. And again, part of it's the scheme. He didn't really fit what Luke Getsy wanted to do. Luke Getsy seemed to want more of the big-bodied receiver, besides DJ Moore, obviously, but he wanted to kind of go with the guys that kind of block outside, set things up. That's what we saw. Equinemius St. Brown gets so much run. Velus Jones, got some more run than as a gadget guy, and Mooney just couldn't find his place, and that was a problem. So.
I like what Black Bear said. He's got a good podcast. I follow him recently. He was going to be on the show, but something popped up with him. He's like a truck driver, and I think his phone fell on. I don't know. It's weird, but good dude. He says Mooney and Justin, not on the same page.
Yeah.
That's very important. I mean, I'm not going to lie. That's continuity. Being with a guy, is very important, and getting all of that, and then. I don't know what happened there. But Black Bear, he said Claypool looked good in training.
He looked really good in camp. Yeah, I thought, man, when I saw, the times I was there, I talked to our other guys that were there a few times. They said the same thing. He got hurt kind of as camp wore down, so he kind of had a slow start to the season. But man, he looked really good. I mean, real physical, real chippy too. Talking a lot of trash, and that's okay from your receiver. That's what those guys do. They kind of got that in him, and he was backing it up, man. He was going up, getting the ball. Just didn't work out. Now is he still in Miami? I'm not even sure. I know he was there for a little bit on their bench for a bit, but
7 targets for 28 yards is what somebody came up with the other day. So that's 8, and he's not even it's not even to the point where he's there's not a whole lot of pressure over there to be number 1. You're probably like 3rd, 4th fiddle, maybe even 5th. I mean, you count the tight ends and they've just got so much talent over there in Miami. It's but who knows? Maybe we can trade with Pittsburgh again to get our 2nd round draft pick back. Who knows?
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah. Let's see. He said something else was there. Oh, right here. Back to defense. Yes. Do you guys think it was more Fluss or Montez being responsible for the defense improving? That's a good question. I think it was a little bit of both, but I definitely saw an immediate response when Sweat hit the building, man.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of pulled everything together. I mean, when they had a chance to add him, a legit stud off the edge, it's, we heard him talk about you need the front 4 to get pressure on their own. Flus doesn't want to blitz, but when he took over play calling, he started blitzing a little more. He got comfortable blitzing a little more. I think that's something he was okay doing. When he got Sweat added to the team, he didn't have to blitz as much, but he still kind of kept the same percentages going there. So, I mean, I'm excited to see what Flus does with his defense. I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought the Bears should have moved on. I thought this was a good time to make a fresh start, with the coaching staff and everything, because what was going to happen here. The fact that Flus has been retained, it is what it is. So now moving into year 3 in his scheme, he's going to be calling plays again, is what it seems like. I'm excited to see what happens in that defense.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I am too. But with that defense, do you think that we need to go after? I've seen some people early, first round even, Lester, saying, let's go after an edge. Let's go after a pass rusher. Do you think that's critical? I mean, we've got a lot of holes to fill, and then there might even be some more too yet. We don't know exactly who's going where. There
Yeah.
could be a lot of stuff going on. Do you think that's critical, or do you think we're cool right now?
Yeah, I think they have to address edge. I'm not sure if it's going to be in the draft. Like I said, where they're drafting at 9,
Okay.
they don't have a second round pick. You talk about how you lost it, to the Steelers. So,
Yeah.
if you don't get a guy at 9, which I think they're going to go receiver if it's there, maybe you trade back. And I know there's some talk about possibly Justin Fields trade. I'm not sure what you're going to get in return for that. Maybe you do get a second for them. So now you are back in play with an edge, but
Yeah.
which edge are you getting? I mean, who's going to fall here? I mean, this is, from what I understand, it's a top heavy edge class. There's
That's
like,
what I was just about to ask you, how deep it was and how far do we stop looking like Brandon's watching, the TV, and after the 6th round, 7th round, or 5th round, when do I stop looking for a good edge in
well,
this
I
draft?
think Jacob Infante, our guy, just tweeted out earlier today his top edges. He ranked them going back, I think, 3 years, and I think there are 3 guys in this class. So I think there's 3 guys that are going to go kind of early. Then after that, I think it means where your drop off comes.
Okay, so what draft?
I think this year I think it's Verse, I think it's Dallas Turner, and I think it's I know I'm gonna butcher his name, Lataru,
That's all right, buddy.
UCLA, the guy from UCLA, all
Yeah,
arms, really good athletes, fast off the edge. But those are the 3 top edges this class, I believe.
yeah.
But like I said, where the Bears pick at 9, I don't think you take a guy there, and you're not going to have
What?
those guys waiting for you in the 3rd round when it comes back to your.
Okay, so top 2, first round, second round. Look for the top edges to be gone
That's
potentially.
my guess. Yeah, it's like I said, if it's those 3,
Yeah,
they're probably gone. And then, but yeah, who knows? I mean, if the Bears trade back off 9, if there's a Justin Fields trade in play,
yeah.
who knows where they'll end up drafting? It's going to be exciting. I mean, it's a strange time as Bears fans because there's so much uncertainty, but also it's exciting because we should know in a couple weeks here where the Bears are gonna stand as far as the draft.
Well, not only that too, but you get a little better idea, right, Lester, when we approach the free agency and we see who's available, who's out there, who
Yeah.
he goes after. Then they kind of like, okay, well, clearly we're not going to look at that in the draft. If we do, it'll be somebody way later in the rounds instead of the top round, so I can move. The boards start to move after the
Yeah.
free agency to a point, right, Lester?
Well, your guy Blackbird just mentioned in the chat, Daniel Hunter. That's a guy that was mentioned, I think, at Super Bowl week. Some buzz kind of
16 and
popping
a
up.
half. Is that right, Lester? 16.
I'm not sure what he had last year. I know he's always in the double digit. He's one of those guys. He's off the edge. He can get it done. Relatively young. I think he's 28, 29. So there's one more good contract in him. And that's what he wants to get here. Coming from the NFC North, of course, he's with the Vikings. Like I said, there was some buzz at Super Bowl week where the Vikings aren't going to bring him back. People started talking about that, a logical fit. And then Kaplan, Cap, just had his show on YouTube.
Yeah.
I think it was over the weekend. He's hearing the same things. There's some legit interest there for the Bears and Hunter. It's a money thing. I mean, are you going to dump that much money into another edge when you just gave Montez Sweat so much money?
Money.
I think it's possible. It depends what you do at safety. I think you have one big splash. So you're either going to make a big splash at edge, like a guy like Hunter, or you're going to try maybe spend it at receiver. Are you going to spend it at safety? Are you going to let the market come to you and kind of spread it out a little bit? But I would love Daniel Hunter. I think he's an outstanding football player. He fits exactly what Flus wants to do.
And I would like to point out, I'm pretty sure we've already talked, Lester, about this. I spoke last week with Tommy Harris, and he's very comfortable with who we have at the 3 technique. So that's good news coming from somebody with that skill set.
Does he like Javon Dexter, or does he like Zach Pickens at the 3 tech?
Javon
Dexter, okay.
He didn't even say the name, but I just know, for me, I probably shouldn't do that, but I'm guessing it was Javon, so he didn't even say the name. So. But I would say Javon for sure, because Javon played a lot more, and he came on strong. It was like beginning, everybody was like, when he's down there in Florida, they were kind of asking him a different type scheme, like read, react. Okay, well, is he going to be able to get that push off of the line on the forward, at the foot, on a 4-3 defense, whatever, do what he's got to do in order to create that pressure. Clearly, he's a monster, and he'll be just fine. And then with the edge and all that, now you're talking about potentially getting another guy with 18 and a half 18 and a half sacks last year. That would be huge. My only concern with that is that's a lot of wear and tear for one guy. And what the hell was everybody else doing on the defense? When you get numbers that high, bro.
Yeah.
But no, he just loves his motor. He loves his speed. At that skill set, at that position, you look at a guy who clearly had a really bad injury, but was phenomenal. 3 Pro Bowls at that position. When he tells me that a guy like that is really good, and he sees him coming on, like he sees, some things. There's things that are going on, technique that I'm sure he's looking at. All these sort of things that I can't metabolize with my eyes because I'm a offensive lineman. I just know his hands are in my face. You're too quick. I got to get away. Keep him off my quarterback. All that kind of stuff. That's the stuff I look at. I don't look at all the nuances of a guy that has been at the NFL position. So when he told me that, it quickly changed my mind, because before that, I was thinking like 3 technique would be the way to go right away. And then some people have putting up some stuff up where if we traded with Washington, we get some dude named Payne as a defensive tackle along with that. So is that even necessary at that point? Because I know you need depth, but do you need a guy like that good if you've already got a guy in place? And to that point, Gridiron is only coming into his second year. So if he ascends like he already is right now, he's only going to get better, Lester. You know what I mean? So do you think they're even going to waste any time with the hit philosophy, or is that pretty much left the building and they're looking at other stuff now,
The hits? Nah, Flus loves his hits, man. I mean, it's one of his like if the Bears are picked for Hard Knocks this year, and they're one of a couple teams that have a chance to be picked this year.
Yeah.
We're gonna hear hits philosophy from Flus. It's gonna be on his board and on the screen. It's gonna be all over the place. So yeah, I mean it's not just his thing. It's kind of his thing now, but it's the Rod Marinelli, it's a Lovie Smith, it's that Tampa 2 philosophy.
Oh, okay.
It's wanting those athletes. You want athletes on defense. You want them hustling. It's all about the takeaways, or I'm sorry, the T now stands for the ball. That's what they changed it to. So it's all about getting that ball, man. It's all about, hustling. And that's who they want. That's what they want out of those guys.
Bear says hits ain't going nowhere. I didn't think it would, but I feel like it's to the point where they pushed it so heavy that now it's kind of like, how like sometimes you push something hard early, then you're just kind of like, I'm burnt out, so.
It's part of their core values, man. I mean, if you like the scouting staff, that's what they have. That's what they're going off of when they're going out and looking at guys.
Okay.
They have to hit that, it's the hustle. It's playing intense. It's all that stuff they want to have these guys do. And you heard Flus, man, when he first got the job.
Yeah.
Get your track shoes on, because he wants athletes. He wants his guys in great condition. He wants to outlast them. And that's who Flus is. I mean, he's old school, man. That's kind of what endears him to a lot of Bears fans. He's got that old school mentality. I just want to see him get a little less conservative as a head coach.
Yeah, less conservative. I agree too. What would that look like? I mean, would you potentially allow your offensive coordinator to call the plays on offense and then you call the plays on defense, or maybe let your defensive coordinator still call his? Well, to this point, he's going to be calling the defensive play still yet, right? So
it seems that way. I mean, we kind of saw this thing happen with Ron Rivera. He's a defensive guy, right? But at some point, he became Riverboat Ron. Really aggressive as a head coach, so we have seen defensive head coaches that are notoriously conservative change their stripes and kind of do it. So, maybe Flus is seeing what happened. I mean, they have to self-scout, right? They had to go back and look. Flus has to look at his last year's record and say, we blew some of these games because we were conservative. He has to know this. He has to self-scout. His staff has to be honest with each other. and they have to realize we have to be a little more aggressive when it comes to the fourth quarter on offense and defense. And I know Luke gets a lot of crap last year for his plays, but he was taking Flus's guide. I mean, if Flus wants to be conservative, if Flus says, "Hey, let's run it out here. Let's just hold the ball, be safe, be smart." That's what Getsy does. So I think with Shane Waldron as the new OC, a little more experience as a play caller, a little better with some of his scheming, a little better with the sequencing of plays. Like you said, I think Flus may step back. He may trust his offense a little more this year.
Yeah, and now, and to your point, maybe even allow the defensive coordinator to kind of take that place and start to do his play calling and that, so he can take a step back and do his job as an overall coach of everything. Because I think when you look at like timeouts and overtime rules and those kind of things, and you have to look at everything, special teams, all that stuff. Who's too many guys on the field, not enough, everything, who left a damn whatever, all these sort of things, you miss when you're doubling down and you're wearing 2-3 caps. So, maybe be a little easier on him if he starts to feel like, oh, I could trust this guy and I could trust this guy. You know what I mean? And rightfully so, because you go get a guy, potentially what I'm hearing is with this offensive coordinator, he's been around, he's well seasoned, he's trusted, respected. So maybe that, shortens the time with, where he starts to open up and be like, all right, you're safe. I can trust you, Whereas like freaking, what do you call it? Getsy was just basically holding the clipboard for Rodgers and, water bottle, and went from one place to the other. So had a 1-year contract everywhere he went. And we're like, let's give him a ride, But I'm not going to lie. I was really excited that we got him. I'm not going to lie. I was a goon who went out there right away. I was like, yay, all right, cool. We finally got a good coordinator, and who knows, maybe he'll do good down the road, but at least he's down the road. So, and I've been right. I've gone on record all the time saying, I don't know everything. So that's why I bring some of these guys on. Black Bear wants to know, I didn't hear, is Lester, Justin, or Kit? Let me answer this question just in case this goes sideways, because I know how this might go. Okay, so Lester is who's ever wearing a Bears uniform.
Yeah.
So right now, Justin is wearing a Bears uniform. If that changes because of Ryan Poles we trust, then he will proceed with that person under center next. If I'm correct, Lester, please,
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, Justin Fields is the Bears quarterback. Yeah, I don't get it's ridiculous what's going on with Bears fans.
I know
how they're making things up to bash one guy or the other to hype their guy up. It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like at some point, read the room. There is not one national or local beat guy, reporter, analyst, insider that gets the sense that they're going to keep Justin Fields. If they keep him, that's fine. I'm a fan. I wish him well wherever he ends up. Just seems like it's going to happen. I mean, it's a very unique situation, getting the first overall draft pick.
Yeah.
It seems like they're going to make the move and they're going to go ahead and draft Caleb Williams.
Yeah. I hope we keep him, because here's a couple things really quick, Lester, that I really wanted him to do. It was very important for me because as an offensive lineman, I had some of the best seats in the house. Once I did my job, I was actually able to look downfield and see some really cool stuff. And some things that I did see that was actually a lot cooler than I thought it was. But I was just like, I did all that blocking just because he threw it out of bounds. A lot of times this year and last year, if the ball would have just went out of bounds and would have been thrown out of bounds, we could have lived to play another down. And the Bears should have never put that kid in that position to put his, cape on and do all the miraculous things that he does, the Houdini stuff, to get out of a third and forever, a second and forever position, and not have a good, formidable offensive line to protect him from mayhem and some weapons with the powers that be. I still haven't asked you about Marvin Harrison and all those guys. We'll get to that. I don't know how much time. How much time do I got you for? I forgot. I'm sorry.
I don't know. It's going on 8:30, so we're pushing 60 minutes. How long you want to go here?
We're not going to pull an all-nighter. Let's
okay, just checking.
Do a cram exam. Yeah, just Hit me on top of the head when you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Do a whack-a-mole. But no, just really quickly, you know, they could have done him a lot better. They could have done. This is a guy that we've been wanting, that we've been pounding on the pave, that we've been beating on the tables. We've always wanted a quarterback like this dude, and we weren't even ready. We didn't even know how to, like, you know what it reminds me of? Those little brats that you went to high school with, mom and dad, because mom and dad had a lot of money. And they hand him the keys to a really nice Benz or something. And a week later, you hear they wrap it around a freaking telephone pole or something, you know? That's how I felt we've treated freaking Fields, bro. And I feel bad for the kid.
Yeah.
And I hope that if we can get him some offensive line, if he stays in the building, if we can get him a little bit more offensive line and an extra weapon here or there, that he'll be able to make those, you know, throw it out of bounds, live to play another day, because he doesn't feel like he has to play hero ball every down in order to, you know, make that first down and stuff, Lester. That's where I'm at with it, you know. So
yeah, like I said, it's like I said, circumstance dictate this the time to move on. It's been 3 years. Actually, we had a coach John DiFilippo on our one of our podcasts early this morning with Taylor Dahl, and he said the same thing, man. If after 3 years, it's time to make your decision. You know what? If you think Fields is the guy, you know, one way or the other, Ryan Poles knows what he's going to do. I know there is no official decision made, but behind the scenes, he is 99% sure what he's going to do. It just seems like he's going to move off of Fields and get his guy a quarterback.
I know. Hey, but Black Bear says that you guys are on the same page with the whole QB debate. So there you go. But I will tell you this, though, Lester. Here's the thing. I'm going to use a philosophy real quick. We'll move forward. Okay, so I'm a carpenter by trade. So we're building this house, right? And the roof's leaking. But the roof's leaking because we barely got the foundation in, okay? The foundation was messed up at first, so now we got the foundation right. We haven't even put the walls up yet. So you know there's no roof on the building, and that's why we have a leak, is because there's no walls to support the roof because we barely got the foundation. My point is, the building isn't even complete yet, and we're already complaining about Justin Fields and ready to move on before the whole thing even was able to. And I think part of that foundation would have been being able to sit back for a year and learn from another quarterback and get used to that NFL speed. Because if you remember, and I wish this kid would have never said that, especially in Chicago, when he ran around and he did all the miraculous plays in the preseason, he goes, man, that NFL speed, it's not that bad. You know, I'm ready for. I forgot how he said it. I'm not saying it as, you know, how he said it, but he basically was just like downplaying the NFL speed. Now, if I'm not even worried about Chicago, I'm not even circling them on my calendar. But now you gave me something to play for, Justin. I'm going to show you what this NFL speed's about. I'm coming for you. You know what I mean? So there's a couple things he could have done a little differently, Lester, you know? So, yeah. So what about the receivers, man? What do you think is going to happen? You think we can get one of these Maseratis out there, this Marvin Harrison Jr. or the other guys? What are you looking at?
Yeah, I think Harrison's probably going to be long, unless it's a trade somehow. Unless the trade happens, I think Harrison's gone. You know, it just seems like all the mocks, man. It's Neighbors or the kid from Washington, Roma Dunze. It's one of those two. I mean, that's what it seems like. Both would be great fits. Both would be probably a top receiver in any other class. This is a strong receiver class. And I know I mentioned the top three, but, you know, from talking to Jacob, talking to the other guy, EJ, you know, this is a deep receiver class. So if by chance all three are gone before the Bears pick at 9, they're going to have a chance to get another guy later in the draft. And it's just it's a good class. But again, you got to also go free agency because you cannot go into the season with DJ Moore as your only guy. Gabe Davis, you know, a Samuel, and one of these guys would be picked here. Boyd from the Bengals. You got to find another quality guy you can count on to kind of put in that receiver room because you need more than just Moore.
And you know anything about Mush Muhammad's kid coming out, or Brandon Rice, Jerry Rice's kid? What's the numbers on that? Have you heard anything from Jacob or what those guys look like? If that's potential guy we could pick up later on or no?
I haven't heard much about Muhammad's. I know Rice is obviously he's played USC.
Yeah.
You know, more of a big body X. I talked to Jacob a little bit about him. He said he kind of needs a little work on his route running, so which is common with a lot of these bigger receivers.
Wait. Let's put a pin in that real quick. I got a question for you. I just looked at the measurables the other day about Brennan Rice because I'm looking at this. I'm really excited. Jay Rice's kid. I'm like, what? Let's, maybe we got another shot at, whatever. So I looked at the measurables. He's just a little bit taller, and I think he's got like 10 more pounds of size to him. So he's not really that big. But when you remember Jay Rice as he played and what he looked like, and as his kid looks a lot bigger than that. So what do you mean by a big body X? What is that?
The X receiver that's usually on the line of scrimmage. That's what he plays in college.
Okay,
DJ Moore is your Z. Old school calls it the flanker. The kind of guy that goes in motion. Just it's the X. That's
what Claypool was supposed to be.
Claypool should have been the X. It's
Okay.
I mean it's not quite as cut and dry as it was back in the day. It's obviously move guys around, but getting a different body type is obviously good. The way I forget who did it. It was someone on social media. I think it might have been an old scout or old GM, but he says you want to have your receiving core go like a basketball team. You want to have different shapes and sizes. Kind of helps you out to have like a point guard style. A big body guy that kind of post up and box out for the catches. A shifty guy. You want to have options. So that because you never know which one is the best way to attack an opposing defense.
And it changes. Yes, it changes every game, and that's what the Rams did. So right, that's what the Rams have been doing really good lately. They've been throwing to these little slot guys and whatever, and then they hit the big body receiver with the Rams. I forgot his name, but he just kind of came out really good guy. And all this time, I'm forgetting about freaking what do you call it from last year that had a really good year. Cup, yeah. I was like, where's Cup at? He forgot about Cup. How could you forget about Cup? So that's just amazing at what they've done over there, Lester, with all those receivers and stuff. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's that scheme, man. It's what Sean McVay does, and that's why, like you, I was so excited with Luke Getsy hire because he was coming from that same mentality. He didn't work with Sean McVay directly, but worked with LaFleur, who of course is with McVay. I think Coach Flus thought he was getting that scheme. I mean, that's what he talked about. He talked about it in the offseason when he was hired. They want a Shanahan-style offense because that's the toughest offense to defend. Getsy didn't really bring that to the table. That's what he thought he was getting. It never happened. I think that's probably the big reason why he was fired.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with that too. And I also think that he really didn't know how to use the tight ends that well. You look at the tight ends, I really thought that we could have done a lot better. I will tell you this. I was real impressed with what Cole Kmet did, but when you got a guy like that, bro, I'm telling you right now, the sky's the limit. 1,000 yards, easy, double-digit touchdowns. I mean, he should have got his hands on freaking Taylor Swift way before Kelsey did, dude. I mean, the dude's a stud, But speaking of tight ends, what do you see out there that is? I know a lot of guys want that guy from out in Georgia. Is that a little far-fetched, or what do you see potentially we're going to go after? And I know that this coordinator, right, is supposed to up to 3 tight end packages at some time. Is that really necessary to have a Cole Kmet and two other studs, or maybe one other stud, or a somewhat middle of the road stud, or what do you think we need to do, man? Yeah, I know you love tight ends, so this is a good one for you to answer.
Yeah, I know with Waldron. I mean, I think last year he used 3 tight end sets because that's kind of what his offense, what he had. I think Waldron every year he's kind of morphed what he does based on the personnel. That's one reason why I'm excited to see what he does in Chicago. But yeah, you mentioned the kid from Georgia, Brock Bowers. He's an outstanding talent. He may be there at 9. He may be an option. I mean, if the receivers are gone and Bowers is sitting there, I think. You hear the word tight end, you think, oh, why do you want a tight end? You got Cole Kmet paying him a ton of money. Brock Bowers does not play the inline tight end that Cole Kmet does. Brock Bowers is a move guy. He's in the slot. He's moving all around the offense. He would be fun. His tape
kind of like Dallas Clark with the Colts. That
same kind of thing. He's a move guy. You hear him called the Joker sometimes. He'd be fine, but I think if you're looking at tight end, I think you have to address it because right now it's pretty much Cole Kmet. I would like to see Mercedes Lewis return just because I like that old man strength he has. He's fun to watch play. He's a good backup Y. But there's really no one else in the roster. Robert Tunyon, I thought would get some use last year in Chicago because he was so good in Green Bay, but Getty didn't really have a way to use him. But Waldron will use. He'll use double tights occasionally. So I think one of his guys from Seattle, Colby Parkinson or Noah Fant, they're both free agents.
Ooh.
I think one of those two will probably be in play. Fant is more of a traditional move guy. Parkinson kind of is a move guy, but he also has some inline skills as well. I think Fant makes the most sense because he's not what Cole Kmet is. So I can see the Bears going after Noah Fant in free agency.
Yeah, I mean, folks, and listen to what Lester's saying, because this did happen when we went ahead and brought over what do you call it? The coach Getsy. We brought some guys over, some Getsy type guys. So this does happen. We do try to connect the dots and read the leaves and all this kind of stuff. But sometimes there's actually stuff there. Coaches do like to bring their guys over, right, Lester? So I think it's important to look at. I think it could potentially happen. It definitely makes it a lot smoother transition, just like we saw some of those Colts guys come over with our head coach Flus, to show the hits, and all that cool stuff. So, is there anything else that we're missing, Lester? Maybe running back we could go over real quick, or dude, offensive line, duh.
Yeah, there it is.
Let's go to our love language. Let's get right into it. What do you think, man? What's going on? What do we do? Free agency, draft? What do you want?
Yeah, I think an O-line, you gotta right now. There's a huge hole at center. There's not really a center on the roster because your guys that are free agents, Patrick Feeney, they're both going to probably be gone. I'm not opposed to one of those guys coming back as a backup, but you cannot count on those guys to be your starter. So you cannot, again, we talk about you can't go into the draft with the obvious need there. So I think they're going to get a free agent center. Again, we're going back to Seattle. Evan Brown, he was Waldron's starting center last year. I think he might be a good stopgap guy. You can send him to a 1 or 2 year deal, but then also draft a center at some point in the draft. Hopefully he's a guy you can kind of develop and take that job in a couple years. But I think for year one of the Waldron experience, you got to get him a veteran center that can kind of step in and be a legit starter, because right now there isn't one on the roster.
Lester, tell our viewers really quick how important it is to, by the way, viewers, if you please like and subscribe, hit that like button on YouTube, be a friend, tell a friend. Thank you very much for supporting us. Lester, if you could really quick, please tell the viewers at Chicago Sports Podcast, if you could please tell them how important it is to have a veteran center versus a rookie to protect you from mayhem, no matter whether it be a rookie quarterback or soon to be seasoned veteran like Fields back there.
Yeah, I think if the Bears are going to go ahead and draft a rookie quarterback, that's, like I said, that's what it looks like they're leaning towards.
Yeah.
And I think it makes the most sense to have a veteran center. He's making all those line calls. You trust him to know the protections. You trust him to make the right call. With the rookie center, sometimes those guys just they don't see the game the same way. So that's why you have a veteran quarterback kind of take some of those. At the end of the day, it's the quarterback's job. It's his responsibility to make sure the pass pro is set. But if your veteran center has it done right, that's one less thing the quarterback has to think about. So that's why I think a guy like Evan Brown is probably going to come in. He makes the most sense. I know the kid from Tennessee, Brewer. He played center last year after being guard early in his career. He had a kind of a rough year in pass pro, but he's an ascending guy, still young. The Bears assistant O-line coach had him last year in Tennessee. He's another guy that possibly comes in, but you got to get a starting quality center for 2024. Has to happen.
And you know what, really quick, because I take for granted that you've been on the show so many times before, especially when we first got started, when I had my cell phone propped up against my city trash can in my garage and stuff, and you were like the one person that answered my calls to do podcasts with. But could you tell everybody really quickly what your skill set was, and that you're actually not in the 5 foot club, that never played football before? You actually played football. You're in the 6 foot club. You in high school, college, you were tan, tone, ready to bone. You played 2 different
Tan,
positions.
tone, ready to bone, man. I never heard that. That's crazy.
You played college football, and you also played basketball too. You were like 2 sports.
No,
Right?
I played a year of college football, and then I was always just basketball, just pickup guy. I mean, I did a lot of men's leagues, but yeah, no, I mean, I've been a lifelong, football fan, obviously, and
Yeah.
right now I'm been at Windy City Gridiron for a long time, since 07, 06, something like that. I'm not even sure. It's been so long.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, just it's that's the
17 years.
passion now. So Bears.
17 years. What position did you play when you were in college, bro?
Offensive tackle.
See, so listen, when he's talking about center, how important it is to have that. And didn't at a lot of times your center help you navigate, where the play was going and all that between the unit?
I mean, that's like I said, a good center. It's always downplayed. You hear a lot of every draft, those guys get kind of pushed down the board, but when you have a good one, when he really brings everything together. Kind of like how we talk about Montez Sweat bringing the whole D line together. A really good quality center. Kind of just ties it all together. Just like I said, it's one less thing the quarterback has to always think about. If he trusts that guy to always have it done right, he knows the pass pros and reset. He knows when the blitz is coming, where they're going to pick it up. That's just one less thing you have to worry about. That's what's the Bears were fine. With Cody Whiter a few years ago, he had the cerebral part of the game down. They drafted James Daniels. It didn't work out with him at center. Now I think Daniels is still in the league with Pittsburgh, right? But he's still playing guard, so he never was able to pick it up to the center part. So you need a guy that can get the job done.
What do you call it? Sam Mustipher ended up going over to Baltimore, and he's doing pretty good.
He got picked up by the Ravens. He was on their practice squad for a little while.
Yeah,
he got promoted to the main roster. I think he got a start or two down the stretch, and he's fine. He's always a serviceable guy. I mean, that's a great story, man. I know Bears fans want to rip on him, but
yeah,
undrafted free agent, battled his way to the roster from the practice squad.
Yeah,
started like a couple of years worth of starts in Chicago. That's a cool story for a guy like
really
that.
Cool.
But he wasn't an all pro. So some Bears fans just want to rip him for it. And of course they start attacking this guy old recruits online. It's like, what are we doing here? The Mustipher story is a good one, but it happens.
Yeah. And and I liked the what was that? Quentin Nelson out of the Colts.
I think Notre Dame.
He had his back. He told them everybody of how smart he was, Mustipher was, and how well had a good command, and he thanked him, helped him a lot for where he went and everything and all that kind of stuff too. So there's a lot more than meets an eye for a guy, even if he doesn't get to where you think he should be at, blah blah blah, whatever. So so I think we pretty much got it all as far as so you want to go ahead and pick up a veteran center, and possibly in any other position online, as far as like maybe a tackle or something in the draft. Who do you got your eye on in the draft?
Yeah, I think in the draft, like I said, they have to go center in the draft. I think you got to get a guy that you could trust.
Okay, so get a center in the draft.
Yeah, I think you have to double dip. I mean, I said you can't count on. Last year we saw them do it. They did it with right tackle. They didn't have a right tackle on the roster. And going into the draft, everyone knew they were going to get Darnell Wright. It just seemed like the most logical thing, made sense.
Yeah.
Worked out great for Chicago, but you ideally don't want to go into the draft with a need. So if you can get a veteran center, and now if a guy falls to you, great. But you're not reaching for a center in the draft. So I think you got to double dip though. Get a vet center, get a center / guard, kind of do both there. And then of course, again, receiver, free safety. There's ways to go about it.
Yeah, I'm just like I'm also worried about the left tackle, Braxton Jones. Do you think potentially, like you've seen it too? You were a tackle where they want to move you around and it kind of messes you up with your balance and stuff, your technique and everything, and how you are, right? Do you think that's something that we might look at where we switch our right tackle over to left tackle, or are you good with Braxton, or do you think we go out and draft a guy? What do you think we're doing there?
Well, I think Darnell Wright's always been a right tackle. I think that's kind of where he fits in there. Braxton Jones, he's always been a left tackle. So if you can upgrade, I think you do it. But I think the way, like I said, where the Bears are sitting in the draft, I just think it makes the most sense this year for them to go ahead and target receiver. Give Braxton Jones one more year because he was really good as a rookie. Obviously, he had a problem with his anchor. He had an issue where he got bull rushed back a bit. That was not as big a problem this year. He had the neck injury. He had a lot of penalties early, but when he came back from the injury, the penalties were cleaned up, and we did not see him get pushed back as much. That's a testament to Braxton Jones putting work in the offseason. He knew that. He worked on his technique. He lowered his base. He worked on his strength. He did that. Let's see him come back now year 3. He'll take another good offseason in the lab. He'll put the work in. He'll come back. And I know Ryan Poles likes him. I mean, it's a guy that the Bears trust. So if he's healthy, and it seems like he's going to be healthy because he can recover from the neck injury, fine. I'm okay with Braxton Jones. I mean, he's not all pro. I know I hear some people say he's kind of like Charles Leno, which I know that's a trigger word for some Bears fans, but Leno is still starting left tackle in the NFL.
Yes.
3 years after he left Chicago. He's getting the job done. He's fine. He's not elite. He's not
Washington.
Thomas. He's in Washington still. I think he's a free agent this year. He's close to the end. I mean, he's been around for a long time. But I would love a Joe Thomas. I would love an Anthony Munoz. I would love an elite left tackle. But, man, those guys don't fall off the tree, man. I mean, those guys are hard to find. So if you got 2 guys you feel you trust in Jones and Wright, roll with that. Get them a better interior. I think you're good to go.
Okay, and then guard, swing guard, whatever you said as far as like backup, Freeney. We had Freeney. He's available. I agree. Let's bring him back as long as he keeps the mullet. I'm good with that. Got to have the mullet, baby. Sorry. But if you don't have the mullet, man, hit the bricks. Because I wouldn't know what to do if he came home without one. What are you thinking as far as like guard? Should we address guard early, late in the draft, or look at free agency, or are you okay with guard or what?
Yeah, I think at some point you got to get a guy because Tevin Jenkins has had injury issues every year. He's been a Bear. I like him when he's healthy. He's outstanding. Nate Davis has some injury issues last year with the high ankle sprain. He had a down year. But Nate Davis comes off the books after this next season. He has no more guaranteed money. So I think you kind of roll with Nate Davis at least one more year because he's making, I think, $10, $11 million. So you're not going to cut him and replace him.
Yeah.
But it's Jenkins Davis. But between the two of them, they missed 16 games. So you have a third guard. Now you kind of get in there. If you have to, you got a guy you trust. So I would not be surprised. Like I said, I would not be surprised to see him bring back a veteran guard. But I think you got to draft a guy too. I mean, you can never have enough good O linemen. So if you can find another guy you trust, I think you do it.
And I heard maybe bring that since we picked up the assistant, or we now have an assistant offensive line coach from Tennessee.
Titans, yeah.
Possibly get that center from Tennessee. Maybe they got something else out there that might help us out with, that's a teammate of Nate Davis or something that could help us as far as depth goes, whatever. But I think we could round out the offensive line and definitely make it better for whoever's under center and whatnot. How do you feel about the running back position? Then we'll go ahead and let you go. You can tell us where we could find you and whatever. But man, I could talk to you all night. You know how that is. So how do you feel we're at with the running back position? I did hear from an inside source that Derrick Henry is going to be meeting with Arizona, and that bummed me out a little bit because I guess Derrick Henry is talking about how he doesn't really want to assume the leading role anymore like he has in the past, and that way, if he goes to Arizona, that'll work out with him and that the running back that they picked up, Collins from the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, if that's a good pickup for them if he ends up going there, but I like the Bears running back room. I mean, I liked it. Last year, I like Khalil Herbert. I think Khalil Herbert, he did work on his pass pro. He worked on his hands out of the backfield. He got dinged up again. We're talking high ankle sprain like Dane Davis. Same thing happened with Herbert. But, Khalil Herbert is a one cut and go guy. I mean, he doesn't have 4.3 speed, but he's pretty damn fast. He's probably the fastest tailback the Bears have had in a couple years. I think he averaged like 5.8 yards per carry a couple years ago. Last year he was close to 5, even with an ankle injury. So I think they're fine with Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson as your top two. And then don't sleep on Travis Homer. I mean, Travis Homer last year was signed by the Bears. He was in Seattle with Shane Waldron. He was Shane Waldron's third down back. He was their designated pass protector because he's awesome against the blitz, and he's pretty good out of the backfield as a receiver. So he may find some reps now this year as your number 3. I mean, Deonta Foreman's gone, and he was only signed last year because they needed another guy for Montgomery. They did not expect to get Roschon Johnson in the draft. When they got him, that running back room was kind of crowded. Travis Homer had nowhere to go. He was kind of stuck being your special teams guy. But now you got Khalil Herbert, you got Roschon Johnson, now you got Travis Homer as your number 3. They'll draft a guy late or get a undrafted free agent because you always want to replenish the stuff there, especially because Herbert is out of contract after this year, as is Homer. So you got to have a guy in the pipeline you can come in and fill that role.
Yeah, and you and I were pretty high on Roschon. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get as much punch out of him this year, but potentially, this is his, year. Maybe it took him a little bit longer to come into his own, and this is his breakout year that we really need him to have because, we were excited about him, so.
That was a good pickup. I mean, he is. He still led the Bears running backs in receptions. I think he had like 300 yards rushing, something like that. So he was fine when he was in there. He just didn't get a lot of run because, Foreman and Herbert, I mean, they're pros. I mean, they were the guy ahead of him on the depth chart. He was the number 2. They wanted to work him in. He was good on third downs. So he has a role, and I would not be surprised if he's your starter next year. And they kind of go back to where Khalil Herbert is your guy off the bench, your kind of quick hitter. But like I said, I think Homer will have a role in Shane Waldron's offense next year.
Okay, all right. So really quick, can you tell us where we could find you and all your content and your cool background of the Bears colors now?
Yeah, I'm at windycitygridiron.com. Everything we write goes there. We got a podcast channel too, Windy City Gridiron, available anywhere you get your podcasts. And then when we do video stuff, all our video stuff is on Second City Gridiron.
Okay, cool. And for everybody that's you heard him talk a little bit earlier, a couple guys, just you mind mention a couple guys that's on your crew, just so you said Jacob earlier, right? And then you've got Taylor. Who else is out there?
I mean, we have like 20 people that kind of do stuff with us. Taylor Dahl, she has Making Monsters podcast. Hers is the last podcast on our channel. It's her interview with Coach John DiFilippo.
Yeah.
Bill Zimmerman, he just interviewed Josh Lucas, former Bear Scout. He was on there earlier. He does a lot of great stuff with us. Like I said, we got like 20 of us. Greg Gabriel. If I start going on the list, I can just go to the site, go to our masthead.
There you go.
Everyone is on the site there. Dr. Mason West, he's our podcast. He's doing a mock draft this Thursday live. Him and Kyrie Thompson on Second City Gridiron. They're going to do a Bears mock draft at 5:00 Central. So check that out.
Oh yeah, mock draft, baby. I'm there. Get your popcorn, fellas. What's what about that guy you do the beers? The Beers and Bears?
Bears Over Beers is Jeff Burkus and EJ Schneider.
Yeah.
Actually, EJ just did a radio spot somewhere this morning for someone. I forget where he was at. But yeah, he's also Bootleg Football. Jeff Burkus, JB, he's my podcast co-host. We do Fair and Balance together. Actually, he just texted me just now. He's got an article coming up on his site either tonight or tomorrow.
Oh, cool. Yeah, check that out, guys. He's really good. I had both of those on here. Both those guys on here last year. It was great, man. Good time. So, hey, man, thanks for your time. I really appreciate you. You have a good night, okay?
All right, man. Take it easy.
Yeah. So that was Lester Wiltfong, and that was a pleasure having him on. And everybody, I just want to thank you for coming on tonight and checking us out and being with us and enjoying the show. And hope you enjoyed it. Again, hit that like button and subscribe and be a friend and tell a friend. And until then, go Bears.